I need you to tell me if this is an overreaction or not overreaction, but am I reading too much into this, or is it something? Being on the good old Twitter, you know, I saw that Eric Gall, tight end from the University of Michigan, probably going to be NFL, legitimate NFL prospect where he's taking next year's draft or whatever it is. We'll see. Um, he tweeted, "Love my quarterback, at Cade McNamara," and for a second, it got me thinking. I thought, hmm, how much support does Cade have versus JJ? Because, and when I say, when I bring that up, I'm not saying there's some kind of divide in terms of guys actually liking one guy and disliking the other. But, like, hey, K's my guy. This is who I prefer. This is how I won't throw him into football. Nothing personal against JJ, but that's what I prefer. Same thing, vice versa, right? I prefer JJ throwing me to football as opposed to Cade for whatever player that is on the roster. How much of a impact do you think that has into the coaching decision? I mean, think about this. Cade has the cachet. He's taking these guys to places they've never been before. Um, so we on the outside, a lot of us have automatically assumed before JJ's injury that he was logically next in line, but maybe Cade, even without JJ's injury, had more of a reign on his starting job than we probably even thought.
Yeah, I think Jim Harbaugh's track record says that Cade had the QB1 spot until unseated. That now I say that, and with the caveat of he hasn't had a 5-star quarterback that he has recruited that has been on campus. So that may have changed things a little bit, but I mean, I don't think that the players up to this point have much influence on that decision, just because number one, the injury, like the injury takes this out of the equation. Like there is no battle right now in spring ball. It's Cade getting reps. So that part's taken out of it. And I just think I think with the way that Jim typically operates is that he's big. He said it multiple times that this, it's a merit based. The way he operates is merit based. What have you done? And you're the returning starter as a quarterback. Okay, well I'm not even going to bring someone else in to try to have a battle. Like you have the spot until you don't have the spot, and he just hasn't shown that. I mean, we've seen Shea Patterson, who was a highly recruited transfer quarterback, come in, have long stretches of football where he struggles and doesn't play well. Solid, but definitely not a 4 or 5 star caliber performance that you assumed he was going to have. And there was never any debate on Shea Patterson not being the starting quarterback. There was no, there was really no shot. I mean, even Milton, I'm trying to think of when he, when we ended up seeing Cade, I think that was injury based, wasn't it? I think Joe Milton got
No,
nicked
no,
up.
Joe. He was just that bad. He was
Okay.
just that bad. It was a Rutgers game, and it got to the point where his play literally he forced the hand
hmm
of
And
you gotta remember
but the
that's
last
the
thing I'll
point.
say with that is, I'm I'll kick it to you. But the last thing I'll say is with that though, Joe Milton also wasn't a returning starting quarterback either. That
True.
was year one. So that's where I land on that. What about you, Mark?
No, I think it's a great thing that it's a great point that Dre brings up, speculating on this tweet, because either Eric All is just kind of commenting without giving it a whole lot of thought to, okay, how could this be read into? He's just supporting his quarterback, or he's trying to make a statement. And yeah, these guys, they're not robots. They just don't go out there and, okay, we just catch and run and throw and tackle. We guys naturally gravitate to other guys in terms of whether that's a personality thing. I like my guy, or it's just a flat out assessment of I think that dude's better than that dude, and I'd rather have him play. Or like you said, Des, he just tends to look for me more than he does. So I want him to be the quarterback. So obviously this goes on all over the place, and it doesn't necessarily divide locker rooms. Guys go out there generally and do their jobs, but I think it's obviously a different position than every other position. The best corner is going to play. The best outside linebacker is going to play. But when you get to this position, yeah, the best guy is going to play. But if it's close, then I think that very much could come into play, kind of an assessment of who's got this team, who is this locker room rooting for, who is pulling for this guy or not that guy, and who are they playing harder for.
And I give you another example, like where, and this is where you can read too much into social media, or, it could be signs of things that are going on the inside. And like, once again, do not want to create some kind of controversy. I'm just speculating, right? I remember, a couple times I saw this, right after the Georgia game, you saw, I think, Mike Morris, you saw JJ, and I believe Donovan Edwards, taking a picture together, staying on the field, watching the Georgia celebration. And then not too long ago, I saw a picture of Donovan Edwards, Cade McNamara, and I believe Andrew Anthony, all three together. And the caption was, "We want to win a national title." And as you know, all three of those guys are young. Their first time playing last year. So also you got to think about, the class that these guys are in, how, you naturally kind of bond with guys you come into the program with, right? And you kind of grow up together, if you will. And I do think that's interesting. What do you do as a coaching staff where if you believe Donovan Edwards is a Heisman Trophy candidate, right? Like, this guy is special. Do you factor in that, man, him and JJ have great chemistry? Him and Cade are work good together, but wow, JJ takes Donovan Edwards' game to another level just based on the chemistry and rhythm on the field, right? Rather it's because they just put in so much more work together, off the field, and their clothes. Like, that factors in. I mean, think about an NFL. One of the things that we heard Matthew Stafford, the great Matthew Stafford, say after their Super Bowl win was that, him and Cooper Kupp, from day one, were working together so much, in the off season, working on their routes, working on situational football, and it absolutely carried over. And it was to the point where even when the defense knew that Cooper Kupp was getting the ball, him and Stafford had such a connection that it didn't matter. So when you're in a coaching staff, as a coach, you're seeing that, you're watching practice, and you're seeing, obviously, you're having JJ get his reps, having Cade get his reps. You're like, man, in this hypothetical situation, JJ is really connected with Andrew Anthony. He's really connecting with Donovan Edwards. You got to think about that when in terms of, like, okay, who should I play? On the other end, you have a guy like Cade, who's a veteran, who is battle tested, and who is now has success. And you're like, well, he probably does have majority of the locker room's approval, but does he have the overall approval of my best and most talented players? So in terms of who they prefer. So those are the type of things I think about, and how does that factor in? Of course, injury aside for JJ.